Hey, thanks for checking out Next Level Carpentry today. I've got a question for you. Do you like to sand, or do you hate sanding as much as I do? Either way, I think you'll find a set of these sanding tubes made from scraps of PVC pipe either make you like sanding more or at least dislike it less. So I'll show you how easy it is to make them. The key feature of these sanding tubes is a longitudinal slot cut in each piece of pipe. The slot makes it easy to slip sandpaper sheets into place and holds them there securely during use. And I like this design a lot better than simply wrapping sandpaper around a piece of pipe, and I find it much less trouble than trying to use double stick tape or spray adhesive for the job. The best source for Schedule 40 PVC pipe, like I used in the video, is scrap from plumbing projects because it's free. The next best source might be a big box store where various diameters of drain pipe are available in short lengths at a reasonable price. For the video, I bought these 4 pieces with inside diameters of 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1.5 inches, and 2 inches, mainly because it's a good range of sizes. Plus, they slip neatly inside each other. The process for making sanding tubes is the same, regardless of pipe diameter, in case you need a specific size different from what I show here. Because I'm pretty picky, the first thing I do is use paper towels and a solvent like lacquer thinner to remove writing on the pipe, even though the writing doesn't affect the sanding, only the sandee. Because ink on some pipes is harder to get off than on others, sometimes I have to resort to using 4/0 steel wool dipped in lacquer thinner to scrub off the ink so the pipes are clean enough for my sanding blocks. Either way, after a few minutes of determined scrubbing, the pipes are clean and good to go. After all, we don't want our sanding tubes to look like they were made out of PVC pipe, do we? Pipes can be cut to whatever length suits you, but I've found that 6 inches is suitable for both sandpaper size and project requirements. PVC pipe is easily cut to length on a miter saw, so I first trim one end to make sure it's square, and then use a stop block set at 6 inches to cut each pipe to that length. Notice that I'm holding the cutoff piece between the stop block and the blade, which is good safety practice to keep that cutoff piece from binding, jamming, and possibly kicking out from the spinning blade. And it takes no time at all to cut 2 pieces of each size so I can make 2 full sets of sanding tubes for the video. Next, I use this little deburring tool made by General to clean up both ends of each pipe inside and out. This step makes it easier to add sandpaper to the tube later and keeps sharp edges from cutting your hand during use. As handy as the deburring tool is for the inside of the pipes, the outsides of the smaller diameter tubes can be a little bit tricky to deburr, so I just switched to a file to remove the sharp edge instead. But you definitely can't beat the deburring tool for the insides of the pipes. To make cutting slots in each pipe easier, I lay it on a flat surface and, with a scrap block or some such, draw a straight line from end to end to use as a guide for cutting the slots. I really like these ultrafine Sharpie markers because they leave a crisp, clean line that's easy to see when it counts. Now I can clamp a pipe in my bench habit and use a hacksaw to carefully cut along those layout lines. I'm using a 24 TPI hacksaw blade here, which works well for cutting PVC without clogging or tearing. You can see there's a good bit of retraction on these pipes, which makes it tricky because it binds on the hacksaw blade, but that same contraction also holds sandpaper firmly in place when these sanding tubes are in use. Making these cuts on the smaller diameter tubes can be a little bit tricky because it's hard to grip them in the vise, but with determined persistence, it's entirely doable. Once you're done hacking with the hacksaw and have a slot cut in each of your round sanding tubes, the hard part's over. If you think sanding tubes like these are a useful idea, please consider subscribing to Next Level Carpentry if you haven't already. I'm sure you know by now that it's free, and as a subscriber, you'll be notified each time a new video is uploaded to the channel. If you'd be so kind as to hit that thumbs up button while you're at it, I'd really appreciate it. And of course by now, you know that you can look in the video description for links to tools, supplies, and swag from this video and from other places on the Next Level Carpentry channel. You can also thank patrons of Next Level Carpentry on Patreon for going above and beyond with monthly support that helps make production of videos like this that you can watch for free here on YouTube. As a small token of my appreciation, active patrons have access to a video library there at Patreon. That library contains videos with extra content, behind the scenes information from YouTube videos, as well as insight and anecdotes from my day job as a custom design build remodeling contractor. If that's something that interests you, naturally there's a link in the video description to take you to Patreon where you can sign up and make a pledge. That wasn't so objectionable, now was it? I hope not, but now it's back to work. Because different sizes and types of PVC pipe react differently once they're cut, I take extra measures to make sliding sandpaper into each size easier. First, for all the sizes, I use a sharp putty knife to remove burrs that the hacksaw blade left behind while cutting the slots. For the smallest size, which doesn't contract much after cutting, I use this thin knife file to put a small notch at each end of the slot in the pipe. This notch makes it easier to slip sheets of sandpaper into place on the sanding tube without tearing them. For sanding tubes made with the larger diameters of PVC pipe that pinch together tighter after being cut, I use a wedge like this to open the cut and easily slip the sandpaper into place. When the wedge is removed, the sandpaper is gripped firmly in the sanding tube. That makes it work great when sanding demands it. This wedge is 3/4 of an inch thick and about 11 inches long and tapers from 3/4 of an inch to 3 inches over its length. I use the 3/8 inch roundover bit to round the edges so it takes less force to use. A slot cut in one face makes room for the sandpaper's edge in the 1-inch sanding tube. Naturally, for larger size sanding tubes, the wedge is necessary, but the slot isn't. And that's really all there is to making a useful set of sanding tubes like these. And the fact that these tubes nest together means they don't take up much room in my drawer of sanding apparatus, where they're always at the ready for sanding concave curves of any size. Everyone who likes these sanding tubes and hates or loves sanding in general should also check out the video I did a while back that shows how to make these best blocks for demanding sanding. It shows how to make a set of these flat sanding blocks that hold sanding belts firmly so that I can use them for sanding things like convex curves, bevels, and flat surfaces. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and find your set of PVC sanding tubes as useful as I have over the years. Of course, I'd like to wrap up by saying, as always, until next time, thanks for watching. What do I have for viewers that watch to the end of the end of the end of this video? Not much, but you might find a close-up shot of my yardstick collection interesting. I recently put those on a display board here in the shop, and there's a good bit of history in these old wooden yardsticks. I've collected these over the years, and each one has a bit of its own history, from ones that I found on job sites in old buildings, to others from vendors and suppliers that I worked with over the years. And it's interesting to me in how many cases the yardstick survived, but the business hasn't. And having these relics on display in the shop are a bit of nostalgia for a time gone by when so much was different, even though so many things remain the same.